Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Complete Sports Media's podcast. I'm your host, Darren Campbell. And there on the left side of the screen is Dale Cory joining me to break down some of the Masters tournament and talk some junior hockey today. Hey, Dale, how are you? Great. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, I'm glad to be here again. It's been a few weeks now. I've been checking out some of your shows and getting more popular. And there's lots to talk about, even though we were talking beforehand a little bit. Other than the NFL, there's not a lot going on for professional sports, but still lots happening in the world of sports. And let's jump right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Well, an unprecedented Masters tournament. It was delayed 7 months because of the COVID pandemic. And so Tiger Woods was the defending champion for 19 months. He said he was a little sad having to return his green jacket and give it to them, and they put it in a case, and he doesn't get to ever see it again. But he was a defending champion. It was a super exciting tournament last year. This year didn't have as much drama attached to it, but really fun to watch anyway. See Dustin Johnson, number one player in the world, really having a fantastic year since the pandemic shut down. And once they restarted in June, he's been the best player in the world, dominating a lot of tournaments, came in very highly touted, and was able to lead after every round, take the victory, get his first green jacket, and just very emotional. Haven't seen ever that from DJ. He was having some tears shed in the post-interview questions on the green there, and it was cool to see. Really nice for Gretzky. The Gretzky family. DJ's become quite a favorite for a lot of Canadians because of that tie to Wayne Gretzky. But really fun. Great culmination for him and finally getting that green jacket.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorites for years. I like watching Dustin, and it's 4 times he had that lead in a major and wasn't able to hold on. And yesterday he did, although it got a little closer in the early parts of the final round yesterday. But he's just got such a great demeanor on the golf course, and probably the perfect way of approaching it for a professional golfer, because you want to keep emotion out of it for the most part. You can use it to your benefit, and if you're playing the stadium 16th hole in Arizona during the waste management one, you're going to get a little emotional over something like that. But for the most part, Dustin just keeps his cool so easily and just goes about playing his game, and that is so huge for any golfer, I think, to remove the emotion out of it and just play the game. And it was great to see. I mean, he earned it. He worked his butt off, especially in that back nine, to start throwing some birdies together and just playing consistently. He didn't give anybody else a chance to get back into the tournament and try to challenge him. And to me, that's the key. You don't rely on the other guy faltering a little bit. You try to take control of your own game by getting some birdies and trying to distance yourself. And that's exactly what he did. And I know he talked to his brother AJ on the bag, and AJ had a couple of tears when they were standing on the green on 18 there when he had to wait for that final putt. And Dustin was kind of bugging him a bit. Don't start crying, because you're going to make me cry as well. And, obviously, the work that goes into it, and hearing, when he was young and growing up in Carolina and wanting to go play in the Masters, that was his goal. And obviously, he's played in numerous Masters championships, but to win it and to put on that green jacket, it was pretty special for any sports fan, golf fan. It was great to see yesterday.
Oh, it sure was. He's just had a fantastic career. 26 wins in his career. Has, as you said, held the lead or co-lead after 54 holes, and a lot of people expected him to close them out, and for numerous reasons he wasn't able to. A lot of people said choke, but there was some other circumstances in there that one time they said that he ground his club in a bunker, and he didn't even realize it was a bunker, and they had to come and say, oh, we are penalizing you a shot, and things like that. But really nice to see him close it out. He's just been lights out since June. A lot of wins, second place finishes, and just been playing superb. It's really nice to see a guy that's number one in the world and be able to have his game together during that tournament. It doesn't happen very much. I think he's only the fourth player in history to be number one in the world at that moment and win the Masters. So it was fantastic for him to keep it together and go around. There was a little moment in the tournament or in the final day where you thought, oh, maybe the wheels are falling off. He got bogey on 4 and 5, and that 4-shot lead at the beginning of the day was down to 1. And Cameron Smith was playing really great, and you thought, is this going to happen again? But luckily, he birdied the very next hole and then was able to really play super solid the rest of the way.
Well, and golf is that game. I mean, he took a 4-shot lead into the final round. Well, 2 bad shots by you, 2 good shots by somebody close to you, and you could be even just like that. I mean, it's such a minimal marginal difference that way. But he showed something. He came back with a birdie right after that, and then seemed to get back on track. I mean, we all wish to play the perfect round, and obviously these guys are pros and they're a heck of a lot closer at it than we are. But nobody is perfect out there. Nobody, maybe Dustin Johnson at -20 played about as good as you could play over 4 rounds at the Masters at Augusta, given how tough the course is and everything. But yeah, he just kept battling away, and I know you talk to hockey coaches in that sport, and they'll tell you a 3-goal lead is the worst one because your players relax a little bit. Sure. 2-goal lead, you got to keep playing hard. 4-goal lead, you can sit back a bit, but a 3-goal is always a tough one. And in golf, as I say, 4 shots isn't a heck of a lot because it can change in 2 holes just like that. But he kept going and got it back together, and that just shows so much about the guy and how he was able to accomplish a Masters win yesterday. That he kept his head together. He knew he had the game. He knew he was playing well, and he was dialed into the course all weekend. So he just had to get back to that, and he did real quick and had control of it the rest of the way. Especially, coming through the last half of the back 9, he had that 3, 4, 5-shot lead, and he just seemed to be very comfortable playing with the lead. And that can't be easy at that level with everything that's on the line and over $2 million in his pocket as well. So there's a lot playing into it. It's much more to get the green jacket than that $2 million, no question. But yeah, he did what he had to do down the stretch, and that was great to see for him.
Yeah, the money that he's won this year, for winning the Tour Championship, he won the $15 million FedEx Cup, winning almost $2 million for winning the Tour Championship trophy. And wow, he's been on fire. And it's great. It's great to see somebody playing at this level and pushing records. 20 under was a Masters record. The old record was Tiger Woods in '97 and Jordan Spieth in 2015. Both had 18 under. Nobody had ever pushed it to that. Cameron Smith, we mentioned, he had the lowest score ever by somebody that didn't win. And he talked a lot about watching Adam Scott as a youngster win the green jacket and thinking, one day, I hope that happens to me. And to play that well and still finish second, it's got to be heartbreaking. But the only guy to ever play all 4 rounds in the 60s, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. I didn't realize until this weekend that was a record. I hadn't realized that nobody had ever done that. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Oh, I mean, and at the Masters as well, and at Augusta, which is such a tough course. I know. And when they were kind of coming through the back 9 yesterday and intently watching it, and they start talking about Smith a little bit more and what he's done, and when he wrapped it up on 18 to finish 4 in the 60s, like that's just so huge. I mean, Dustin Johnson finished 5 shots better, but of course had that 170. Otherwise, he would have been there as well. So you had the top never happened before, and you were 1 shot away from having the top 2 guys finish 4 in the 60s. So it's an accomplishment, and I think golf it's so much a technical game and doing everything right out there with every swing and shot management and everything, but it's also having confidence as well. And for what Cal Smith did over the weekend just gives him a heck of a lot of confidence moving forward as well.
Yeah, definitely. After 54 holes, they remarked that this would the first time in history that the top 3 players in the world all held the lead going into Sunday. Dustin Johnson #1, John Rahm #2, and Justin Thomas #3.
Yeah.
That was another shocking statistic that, you would have thought, those top 3 guys in the world coming in to the Masters, you would have thought all 3 of them would have, had the lead, but never happened before either. Another neat stat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the interesting stats are so huge, and bottom line is what the final score is, or what your final shot total is in a golf tournament. But statistics are always interesting to watch, and I know we've both been so inundated with them over the years in this business, and it's just so much a part of when I write a story or we talk about something, the importance of it. But yeah, that was an interesting one as well. You just think that after so many years and decades of the Masters tournament at Augusta, that there's nothing that can happen anymore that's really going to surprise the heck out of you. And for Dustin Johnson to finish 20 under, for Smith to go 4 rounds in the 60s, just shows you that anything can happen on any given day or any given weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
Why we keep watching it, buddy.
That's why we keep watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a 580-day wait for that, in having it in November. So it's only 143 days till it happens again, which is pretty great. Obviously all these guys have finished near the top, and Dustin himself must be pretty excited that they get to do that turnaround so quickly. It's going to be pretty cool for them. Imagine winning, 2 green jackets within that short of a time span. It's something to really shoot for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a weird world these days. In some ways, it's like going lightning speed. In other ways, it just seems to be dragging. And it's tough to kind of comprehend it all and fit it all in. But I'm glad that they got the Masters in. I think it's such an important tournament, and no matter if it's in April when we're used to it, or November, and probably for us in British Columbia and Lower Mainland with the rain and everything we're kind of getting now in November, it's probably a good time to have it, because it was easy to stay indoors and watch golf all weekend. Sometimes in April, when it's normally scheduled for, it's getting nice out and you're thinking spring and you want to go outside, but you still want to watch the Masters. So this weekend was a little bit easier, and hopefully we just get things under control to the point where 2021 gets us back to normal to some degree, and that the Masters goes according to plan, and some of the other tournaments, and obviously all the other sports leagues we cover.
Yeah. I miss the fans personally. There was a lot of talk about no patrons being there. There was quite a few people assembled on that 18th green after, but it didn't seem the same. The year before, Tiger Woods, when he won it, they were just screaming so loudly. They started chanting Tiger. You saw, the emotion from him. There was not a ton of emotion, just there because the lack of fans. It was really too bad. It's going to be something that, I'm gonna miss every time they show the highlights of that. You're just gonna know that it's just that emotion from the fans and that energy wasn't there.
Well, and it was interesting too, and I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. I think it was yesterday. Watching Tony Finau was getting ready to drive, and all of a sudden a ball bounced in behind him. Normally that wouldn't have happened because the gallery would have been there and it would have got stopped sooner. But because there are no fans, somebody's shot, kind of bounced right past him. And normally in other circumstances, people might be getting a little unhappy with something like that. But it's just the way of the world these days, and things are different that way. But it's these kinds of things I think just kind of lead us down a path of some normalcy, because we're sports fans. We like to see these things. We like to root for our favorites. In golf, it's a little bit different. There's not as much rivalry. Some of us have favorite players, but we just want to watch the game. We just want to get a thrill out of as good as these guys are in a major tournament like that. And I think we need some of those things. I've been lucky, and I know we'll talk about it a bit with hockey, but I've been going to a lot of Penticton Vees games and junior hockey games here because we've had exhibition games. But in a lot of places, that's not the case. I mean, there's just, Vancouver doesn't have the Canucks going yet. Normally, they'd be a couple months into the season already, and that's not the case. So we're all lacking. We're sports fans. We're lacking a lot of that these days, and we want to get back to it. And the Masters kind of gave us a little bit of that over the weekend, which is good to see.
Yeah, sure was. Yeah. Masters is like no other. It was strange being in November, having to wake up so early. I was like, 4 days in a row getting up that early. It's not good for my lifestyle, but I pulled it off. I did it. Let's mention a lot of other things in the tournament. One of the coolest things was Bernard Longer set the record for the oldest guy to make the cut. He beat Tommy Armour's record by 1 month, 63 years, 2 months, and 17 days. That was cool. And even Tiger in the press conference the day before the tournament started, he said, you know, you always look at guys like Couples and Longer, and they always seem to do well. And it was Larry Mize and him both making the cut at plus 60. That's incredible that they can still compete. It's so great about.
Oh yeah, I mean at 63, he's he's still in great shape. To watch him there, you don't think of him in terms of being 63, and I'm not a heck of a lot from that, so I'm going to say that's not very old right now. But the Masters in Augusta National is probably that one course where some of these guys that have been playing on the tour for 30 or 40 years can still do well at, because it's a major tournament played at the same course every year. That's not the case with the U.S. Open or the PGA or any of those other major tournaments. They bounce around a lot and gives you a chance to try to dominate in a course that maybe you don't play very much. But at Augusta National, they all go there every year. Bernard's been there for many, many years as a player, and yeah, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for some of those veterans to play a course like that and be successful at it. And he had some good rounds as well. He finished with a good score. But it's just good to see it. It's good for some of those older players to still be out there and show some of those younger guys how it's done sometimes.
I know, I like it. Yeah, really fun to see. Bryson DeChambeau had all the press coming into it. Everybody called him the favorite, and he even said, this is like a par 67, 68 to me. That was kind of a douchebag comment, you know. It was a lot of things that come out of his mouth that, aren't very pleasing. Some of the way he acts, he's always complaining if he hits it off and he's asking for rulings and stuff. It's pretty irritating, but fantastic player, really has revolutionized this year in golf. His wayward tee shots and, his game just wasn't there these 4 days.
Well, and I know he's added a lot of weight and a lot of muscle and a lot of bulk that way. And sometimes that can help a player, and especially we're focused on golf here. In other sports where they're more physical, it can help most of the time. But in golf, I don't think that's quite the case. But because you can see some really small players that don't have big bodies, but the torque that they can come around with on that swing allows them to get a lot of yardage. And it's not just one shot every hole in one club either off the drive. And yeah, it's okay to hit it 350 yards, but if you can't follow through with your second and third shots, that 350-yard hit really doesn't amount to a heck of a lot. Doesn't aid you that way. So, and you still have to have your mind set, and maybe that wasn't the case. He certainly had some health issues as well with coronavirus and everything. And when they interviewed him at the end yesterday, he kind of talked about not feeling that well at times, and you got to give him that. We don't know how it affects a person, and it seems to affect everybody differently to some degree. So, but I think I'll take a player like Dustin Johnson, who just goes about his business, doesn't show much emotion, doesn't complain about much. You know what? If you make a bad shot, you know that it's on your shoulders and nobody else's fault. And I think a lot of guys can learn from that and be better players on tour and handle the pressure that much more if they can just kind of forget about everything else and just play the game.
Yeah, super good point. Exactly. I wholeheartedly agree. And I wish there was, more players like Dustin Johnson and, goes about it the right way. Definitely. Tiger Woods, defending champion. Everybody was, he shot the 10. Yeah. That was amazing. I personally don't think I've ever put a 10 on a scorecard. I might have maybe closely shot a 10, but I think I cut it off at about a snowman and just walk off. But a 10, that was incredible. It was like a tin cup moment, It's just in the water 3 times on a par 3. That was a shock.
Well, and it was almost reminiscent of Jordan Spieth a few years ago. Remember, he put those 2 or 3 in the water there on 12, I think it
I think it was
was.
same hole. Yeah.
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 And kept plunking him in the water. You know what? It's one of those things, and I certainly don't laugh at Tiger for that happening. It's just an unfortunate situation, and yeah, we've all been there. We're all amateur golfers in our own levels, and love to play the game, but know that we're gonna have some bad holes where there's 8, 9s, and 10s. We've all been there before. It's got to be very tough on him, being the player he's been over the years and how good he is, and obviously goes down as one of the greatest to ever to play the game. But it's humbling as well. It's a humbling game in that you can ace a hole, and the next hole you can hit 10 on it, and it's unforgiving that way. And, you know, I think he could kind of, you know, laugh it off or you know, put it out of his mind that much more. He wasn't in serious contention, but obviously that could have been par 3. If he pars it, there's 7 shots difference right there. So he's at least in the middle of the pack or upwards of the leaderboard as opposed to where he finished. But yeah, it's a tough game at times. Very
Oh
tough.
man, it can be really tough. And yeah, well, I think down the stretch he either birdied 4 or 5 of the last 6, and you know, to be able to, you know, walk off with a 10, that's just gotta just irritate you and infuriate you. You must be just fuming. And a guy like Tiger, he's a very emotional guy. He doesn't even like make one bad shot, let alone, you know, 4 or 5 bad shots. And to be able to, you know, put it together and finish that well, I was super impressed. That's something that we normally wouldn't have seen from him, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I mean, it says a lot the way he came back like that. Yeah, and had those 4 or 5 birdies on the back 9, put it out of his mind and played great golf, which is a true professional, showing what he's capable of when you forget that bad hole. And golf is that one game. I mean, we all play sports at our own level, and you're mad at yourself if you make a bad shot in curling or you miss something in another sport or golf. But it's the ability to come back from that. And I remember talking to, you know, different people over the years that might be going to the Olympics when I spent time in Chilliwack. And the psychological part, the mental part that they worked on, the time I spent at University of the Fraser Valley in Abbotsford, where all of those elite athletes in basketball and soccer and the golf team, volleyball, all had meetings with psychologists and people like that as well, to make sure that they can handle when they make a mistake, how to get rid of that out of your system and to get back to normal and get back into the game. And the mental part is so important to any athlete in any sport. And Tiger showed yesterday that he's a true professional. He came away from that and played great golf the rest of the way.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, I was blown away that he played so well. I thought that would have been it. He might have just walked off the course, said, "Oh, I'm injured. Right. That's it. I'm done." Yeah, it was incredible.
That would have been us doing that probably.
Yeah. I went to a tournament once when John Daly did that. He just said, "Oh, that was it." I think he shot a 12 actually on a hole, and he was just, "That's it for me. I'm finished. See you later." And
went to the clubhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right to the bar and then the casino. Canadians had an unprecedented 4 guys start the Masters. That was fantastic to see. Really good golf from all of them. Adam Hadwin missed a cut only by 1 shot. Corey Connor's a top Canadian. He finished 10th place at -9. Had a really great tournament. And because he's in the top 12, he gets an invite next year. Mike Weir's obviously going to be there next year as well. And Mackenzie Hughes is already qualified for that. So we've got 3 Canadians again going in. But really good to see 4 Canadians. And they did well. They played really well.
Yeah, it was fun watching. Didn't see too much of some of their play early in the tournament, and of course they didn't get a lot of shots yesterday in the final round as well, when they're focusing on the big guys at the top of the leaderboard. But you know, and they're lower mainland guys as well, and it's showing they get the chance probably to play golf that much more through the year as well. They get to practice that much more, and it's great to see. You know, it's good to see Mike Weir. He had a pretty good weekend as well.
Yeah. Nice to see him make the cut.
birdie putt yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's good to see him back into it. I mean, it's tough. You get injured. There's so much on your body with the torque and the rounds that you play, the walking you get in. The back is always an issue for a lot of golfers, but and he's had a share of injuries as well. But and it just takes away so much. It can be the smallest little thing, but if it impedes your swing a little bit, it takes away from your game and you don't play as well. So good to see, and hopefully, yeah, those guys can continue on their progress and on their path, because they're showing well these days. Nick Taylor's had a great season.
Yeah,
and,
I'm glad you mentioned him. Yeah. The Abbotsford guy, great tournament, had a great season, and he ended up finishing -3, tied for 29th. Really great. He was on the radio today. I heard him. He was on Overdrive with the boys there, and he's a really great guy. Has a really good level head on him, and plays the game really well, and it's fun to watch. I'm glad he's having the success he's having.
Yeah, he's and I've seen him in some of those interviews as well. He's a pleasure to listen to, because he seems to get it. He seems to understand what he's achieved at that point for a Canadian kid from Abbotsford and some of the other guys from the Lower Mainland. They've worked hard to get to this point. And there's some great golf programs at universities and different levels through the Lower Mainland to help players get to that point. But he's fun to listen to and to watch in the golf course, and enjoys himself out there. And I think that's the key thing. You're playing professional golf, and it's an honor to be able to do that. We all have our little bits of jealousy, because we love playing the game as well, and think, wow, that's awesome. I'm happy for those guys. They've achieved something great, and they could still get that much better and go that much higher up the board. So we'll keep watching those guys, because I think they've still got a lot to say in their careers down the road.
Yeah, they sure will. Yeah, no, it's been fun. I think we're seeing an unprecedented level of Canadian golf, and they all harken back to that 2003 Masters win by Mike Weir. All of them were varying ages, usually before they were even teens, and just being such a seminal moment for them. Hey, look, there's a Canadian guy. He's winning that tournament. Maybe I can do that, and that seems to be the way it creates these great athletes, as they have a moment where they witness somebody from their hometown or their home country doing what they like to do, and think, I can do it. And you see it, 10 years later, 20 years later, it happens. Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and through a variety of sports. I mean, the influx of California hockey players when Wayne Gretzky went to Los Angeles. I mean, kids wanted to play the game. It was something wasn't never on their radar before, never thought of. And all of a sudden, the best player in the game comes to their state and starts playing hockey in Los Angeles, and that got a ton of kids playing hockey. And throughout, junior A rosters, there's a lot of kids from the United States on these teams, and a lot from California, and he's a big reason why that happened. But yeah, we all look at that. You get somebody from your area or from your hometown, or in a sport that you like, but you'd like to excel at more, but then you see the light and you see somebody achieving something, and you want to try to do the same. So it's good to see it. It grows the sport, and that's what it's all about. Doesn't matter what sport we're talking about. You've got to have youth playing the game, encouraged to play the game, excited to play the game, and having fun. Continuing to play it as they go up the ladder. And obviously some are more elite athletes than others and can make it to a higher level, but no sport goes anywhere if you don't have young kids playing it. I'm the coach of the youth coordinator at the curling club in Penticton right now. So we've got about 30 or 35 kids. But again, the sport doesn't grow locally if you don't have those young kids kind of excited to come out and play and teach the game a little bit and get them having fun, so they want to join later on.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Dustin Johnson set a whole bunch of records. I probably can't list them all right now, but I was thinking, Tiger Woods pretty much has the record book. Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods have seeming to, have most of the records out there. Some of the old names like Sam Snead and Arnold Palmer and all that still hold some of them, but Wayne Gretzky, when he retired, he had 61 NHL records, and I think he still has almost all of them still.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible to see that in that family. Gretzky has the NHL record book, and DJ's trying to take care of the PGA record book. There was a lot of amazing things. He only had 4 bogeys in the whole entire tournament. He, 20 under par. He had his 11th straight round. He was a wire-to-wire champion, and there's only been like Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Ray Floyd, Seve Ballesteros, Spieth, guys like that. Just so many cool things that they kept showing as the week progressed, and it's pretty neat for Dustin and the Wayne Gretzky family. They've got 2 people in the family that are taking over these record books.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it happened at a Masters played in the middle of November as well. Just not a normal situation to have all of that happen. Players are normally kind of taking December off, early part of January, get some tournaments in Hawaii, and then get to the West Coast and work your way through. So by April in the Masters, you've been playing a lot of golf. You're into it then, and your game, even though there's still a lot of summer to go, is probably at its peak. But this time in November, although it didn't really look like it, the trees are nice and green. They're in t-shirts. It looked like a normal summer weekend at Augusta National, much better than we had out here. But yeah, it just says that much more about what he accomplished. I mean, for it all to come together, and I think some of the guys that win tournaments when we're talking golf, and especially if they lead for all 4 rounds. I mean, they're just totally dialed in. Everything is working for them. If they try a certain shot to accomplish something, it's going to go right for them. Everything was happening for Dustin on the weekend. He worked hard to get to that point, though. His approach, I think, was as good as it possibly can be from a mental standpoint to achieve what he did over the weekend.
Yeah. I guess maybe the only disappointment I had from the whole entire weekend was I went on to Twitter immediately after he won, and the trending topic was Paulina, not DJ, not Masters. It was Paulina, and that she was wearing a green jacket, and she had tights on, and she was doing this, and she looked like that. And I was like,
she had her Saskatchewan colors on. I liked it.
Yeah, social media just drives me nuts. It's just crazy that, that's what people want to talk, and it ends up trending about what she's wearing and, the things that she did. Oh, man, it's just crazy.
I mean, it's all cool. I watched at the end, and I mean, you're happy for the person. He's accomplished something major. He won the Masters, and that's cool. And for the players that are married or have their girlfriends there, or whatever the case when we talk men's golf, it's great to see. It's a family thing. They're obviously very close, and it's a big part of it. I'm sure Wayne has done what he could do to help Dustin's game from a mental preparation standpoint, and the things he went through during tough times and overcame them. So he's got some great help in his corner, certainly. And if his personal life is in very good state, that helps your golf game as well. I mean, there's obviously some players, and you're not going to hear about a lot of those things that might have issues behind the scenes, a sick parent or a marriage that has some trouble or something, and that's going to affect your golf game.
Oh yeah.
I got to think that Dustin's life is pretty good these days, in every way, and that's a good thing. He's in a good state these days, and yeah, those probably not all the hardcore golfers that we're talking about Paulina along the way from a Twitter standpoint anyway, but no, I'm just happy for him overall. He's got a good thing going these days, and he's one of those guys that just does not come across as cocky at all. You got to be confident. You got to have a lot of confidence playing that game, but he just doesn't come across as cocky. And for that, I think you can appreciate his talent and what he's achieved that much more because of it. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Heck with Twitter.
Yeah, heck with Twitter. Yeah, I think I'm done with it. Yeah, well, great tournament. I'm super glad that you were able to watch it. I was, hoping that I could reach out to you, and you said, yeah, you would have the time. I know you're super busy, so thanks so much for watching it. Thanks so much for that great breakdown. And yeah, it's it was unprecedented. Really interesting to see it in November. There was a lot of different parameters around it, but turned out well, and really nice to see Dustin Johnson fulfill a lifelong dream. I've won the Masters myself many, many, many times on greens around the world. As a kid, I hoisted the trophy, and so many people do. It's really cool to see somebody achieve a lifelong dream. The Andy Ogletree, the kid that was the top amateur, he said his lifelong dream was to play the Masters and to play with Tiger Woods. And he actually did it 3 times. How cool is that to have, somebody see that lifelong dream achieved? And he got to be in the Butler cabin when they're presenting the green jacket to Dustin Johnson. Another really cool thing about the Masters is how they embrace the amateurs and give them an opportunity like that.
Oh yeah, I mean the kid was so thrilled when they interviewed him yesterday at the end in the Butler cabin, and then he's got Tiger beside, or Dustin beside him, and Tiger right beside him. He's part of that whole process. He gets as good airtime. He was almost as important as Dustin Johnson's part of it was when it came to the interview stage with Jim Nantz. But yeah, just to be part of that. They honor those amateurs, and as he talked at the end, he'll turn pro, and you got to think he's got a good career ahead of him as well. There's been a lot of those young players that win the amateur side at the Masters go on to great careers. But just the ability to play with Tiger 3 times, and how daunting must that be? I've got Tiger. There's a good part to it, and there's a bad part to it, or a part that's going to make me a little nervous. But the way he talked from Tiger's standpoint, he went up to him, and Tiger obviously is there to win a tournament as well, and he was defending champion. His game is still there, but he's not in the limelight as much as a lot of the other guys these days. So it's probably more relaxing for Tiger and easier for him to go up to a 20-something-year-old kid who's never played there before and make him feel at ease.
That was bonus. Yeah,
it's not a competition against the person you're playing with in your group. It's a competition against everybody else, pretty much. Sure. But it's you doing your best, not trying to put the other guy down or slow him down. It's all you can do. So
sure. Yeah.
So why would Tiger not want to see this kid play some good golf? And he certainly did for 4 rounds.
Yeah, no, that really was great to hear that Tiger came and put his arm around him and said, let's go do this, kid. And, he said it took the nerves away, quite a bit, because he wasn't sure, what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to talk to him, and for Tiger to take the initiative. And like you say, he's not there just as a ceremonial guy like some of the players are in the Masters. He's there to win it. He won it last year. But, good to see. Tiger's definitely showing a lot more human side in the last few years. I was amazed at him talking about getting goosebumps as he was talking about winning last year. And some of the moments, never heard Tiger say those type of things. I was teary-eyed when I walked off and saw my kids there, that kind of thing. It was cool. And I'm seeing a different, softer side of Tiger, which I'm liking.
Yeah. Well, and man, out of all the sports, it's one of those where it's all about you and really nothing else. I mean, maybe tennis to some degree can go that way from a single standpoint, but it's all about your game, your mental approach, your physical approach, how well you play the game, and really nothing else matters. If you play the best that you possibly can, you're going to have a chance to win when you're at that caliber. But you got to have fun doing it as well. And I think he's probably having more fun now and is more relaxed because of it. I mean, the 10s are going to happen sometime. They're going to happen to anybody in professional golf that plays on the tour. It just happens, but not very often. And you've got to be able to laugh it off and move on as well, but enjoy yourself while you're out there. It's easy to tell amateur kids when you're trying to coach them at a young age and get them into a sport that the most important thing is just to go out there and have fun. Enjoy yourself while you're playing the game. As you get better, you'll enjoy it even more because you'll start to be successful. You'll make shots that you didn't make before. And yeah, it's good to see. I mean, we've all watched Tiger's career and watched him progress into the best player in the game at that point for many, many, many years. No player can hold that, for an indefinite period of time. It's going to come down a little bit, but but for him, obviously, to win it last year and to have that outlook this year and play with the kid that won the low amateur title, 3 of the 4 rounds, I'm sure had to be a thrill for him. He's looked at as an idol that way to some degree, and he's coming through with delivering that way in his attitude.
Yeah, he sure is. Yeah. No, it's really nice. Yeah, I'm glad that he's changed, and yeah, you see a different side of him, and he's a lot more welcoming now, which is very nice to see. Before we go, I do want to mention Rory McIlroy. I don't know how we missed talking about him. Shot 75 in that first round, and then was able to really play well and actually be a little bit of a factor at some point on Sunday. Really nice to see him. He was chasing history as well, trying to get that career Grand Slam. A lot of pressure on him. Didn't play well in the first round, but after that, he played great, solid golf.
Yeah, and saw him. They started to show a little bit more of his shots yesterday as well, as he was having a better round, and that was good to see. He's one of those guys, Rory and Jordan Spieth and some of those players. They've kind of come up at the same time, and they've enjoyed some success and really kind of skyrocketed to that success as well, maybe unexpectedly. But then you kind of settle back down, and you're just another player on the pro tour that's had success. And each week you have to go out and prove yourself. It's only what happened on that weekend that you've got to rely on. Nothing from the past. So he started to play better. It just goes to show you that how much that one bad round. There's 4 rounds in the tournament, and one bad round can really hurt you. And in Tiger's case, I mean, he wasn't quite at the top, but that one bad hole could have certainly, had he been a few shots closer, taken him out of the running from a championship just from one hole. So one bad round for Rory, but yeah, he picked it up and started to play much better golf the last 3 rounds, and especially yesterday as well.
Sure did. Yeah. Well, Dustin Johnson as the 2020 Masters champion. Congratulations to him and all his family. And it was fun to watch. Thank you, DJ, for being able to keep your game together and play so well. It was a pleasure to watch. I'm glad you're taking over the record books, and I'm sure a lot of Tiger Woods records will fall to you in the years to come. And way to go, everyone that put this tournament on. Must have been really challenging and tough to be able to get the course back in shape in November and play and get everybody there and safe. I didn't hear of any COVID outbreaks, any type of people getting it. So congratulations to everybody, and thanks so much for it. Can't wait. 143 days now till the next one, and hopefully you can come and break it down with me. Then it'll be fun. It'll come so fast. The world definitely does spin fast sometimes when it comes to the world of sports.
Yeah, and let's just hope that everything gets back to normal by then. It's normally that second week in April, the Masters. And that's enough months away with talk of another vaccine today, that hopefully we can get on track. I know a lot of leagues are at a standstill. The Junior B League and the International League start its regular season on the weekend. ECHL is looking at December 4th for a start. So things are starting to come back. I know there's not going to be any fans there, but with today's technology, just as we're coming to you through a Zoom meeting, people can log on to Hockey TV and get a subscription and see all the games. So you have to stay at home to watch it. Unfortunately, you can't be at the game. I'm privileged enough. I've been able to go to all the Junior A games that have been played here so far, and a couple games on the weekend with semifinals and finals to determine an Okanagan Cup champion. And from that standpoint, I mean, it was interesting. The Vees never once looked at that 12-game schedule as a preseason. They kind of thought of it as the regular season, placed a lot of importance on it. Beat Vernon in overtime the other night to win the Okanagan Cup, and they were celebrating. I mean, it was something. It's just a treat being around these guys and Fred Harbinson and the professionalism that the Vees exhibit, because they go out to win every game. They go out to win every game, be successful in every way, on the ice and off the ice. And now the thing is, for the next couple of weeks, is just keep our fingers crossed that things stay going well enough or get better, that the regular season can start December 4th. And even though we can't go to the games, for our fans can't go to the games for the most part, we still have access to them. Players will still be playing. The playing for scholarships. They're playing to get drafted into the NHL and have a professional career. It's important to them, and it's important for us that we get back to some of that normalcy and get to watch some games again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the tournament work? How many teams were involved? How did they structure it with the 12 games, and how many teams? How did it work?
Well, here it was the 4 Okanagan teams that took part in this. So they structured it. They had a trophy set up for the Okanagan Cup. So Salmon Arm, Vernon, West Kelowna, and Penticton, they each played 4 games against each other, 2 home, 2 away. Pretty much every weekend they'd have a home and home series Friday, Saturday. So you get a bit of a rivalry going for each weekend kind of thing. Penticton won 11 of 12 games through that stretch. The only team they lost to was Salmon Arm 4-2. They beat Salmon Arm 5-2 in the semifinal, and Vernon beat West Kelowna 2-0 on Friday. And then Vipers came to Penticton Saturday. Close game. Penticton was up by a goal, and with just over 2 minutes to go, Vernon tied the game in regulation, sent it to overtime. You know, and it was fun. You know, the story that I wrote for Now Media in Penticton Now was that it was a playoff game played in the preseason during what would normally be the regular season. So, and it was Friday the 13th to boot. So, so it's just not much as normal these days. But there was something on the line, and it was fun to see. It was like a playoff atmosphere. People weren't in the stands, but they piped in the crowd sounds and everything. But it was a good hockey game. I mean, I think all 4 of these teams in the Okanagan are going to have good seasons. I think the Vees, again, they've recruited well, and they've got some great talent in here again. I think they had the best shot of winning a Canadian championship last year when the season ended after the opening round. You know, fans of Coquitlam hearing this will say, hey, the Express had a good team, and they did. And I was looking forward to an Express Vees championship series because I think it would have been a great one.
Cool.
Unfortunately, we didn't get there. But you know, the Vees are 13-1 through this preseason stretch now, and they all take a couple of weeks off. Quite a few of the teams were bolstered by Western Hockey League players on loan from their teams. They're not started yet. They're not really playing exhibition games like these guys are. So a lot of teams have loaned players. Connor Bouchard, a Tri-City American, played with Penticton over the weekend, had 5 points. He's like 5'4", 150 pounds, like not much size whatsoever for this game. But is a bust up there, and it really showed. So yeah, a lot of Western League players were in uniform these last few weeks for teams, and just kind of getting closer to preparation for when the Western Hockey League starts as well. I know in the Lower Mainland, all those teams, Chilliwack, Coquitlam, Langley, Surrey, are playing a lot of games against each other as well. It's been a little tougher on, say, the new Cranbrook team and Trail being so far away from everybody. Prince George, Wenatchee Wild didn't play any games because they can't cross the border, and I'm not sure what the league is looking at this point for the start of the regular season. We've seen some Canadian teams that play in the States. Well, the Whitecaps were playing out of Portland this entire time. The Toronto Raptors had to stay in the States. In this case, I think it's very difficult for Wenatchee to stay on the road the entire season if there's no home fans. So I'm not sure what the league has in store for that yet. I haven't seen any announcements coming out of it. But the regular season is slated to begin December 4th, and junior fans can go to Hockey TV, and BCHL has a channel through Hockey TV. So you can check that out. The subscription isn't that much. You can get access to all junior hockey games across Canada, junior A, junior B, whatever. So I urge fans to do that. Go jump in and get a subscription. You can still watch these games. I know for our broadcasts here in Penticton, they're going to be much more important because everybody's at home watching them, as opposed to those 3,000 or 3,200 on average here in Penticton being at the arena. They'll be at home, but they'll still be watching. They're still hockey fans, and we hope that things progress well enough that we can have a season.
Yeah. So there's going to be 0 fans allowed at any games so far.
Yeah, there's just been a handful at this point, and I'm not sure what the actual limit is. I know it's 50 more from a provincial standpoint, but I'm going to say there may have been 50 or 60 people besides the teams in the building. Not much more than that. I mean, the Vees have really watched what they're doing and watched those numbers so that there aren't too many people in the building. Everybody is socially distanced, kept them all kind of in one area, socially distanced there. There were a lot of suites in South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton. So some of them were being used over the weekend, but it's easy for them to social distance. They're in individual suites. So not very many people, and that's the plan for the start of the regular season. It's impacting things. I'm helping Vees out with some sponsorship packages, and we've had to get down into a lower bracket. They're looking at a 32 game season right now, so 16 home games, 16 away.
Okay.
Normally it's a 58 game schedule or 56 games, so they'll be playing a lot less games this year. But they'll get that season in. And yeah, to start with, without fans, if things improve drastically, say by early January after Christmas, then maybe it gets relaxed a little bit where you can have a certain amount of fans. And I think they were talking 25% at one point. South Okanagan Event Center, one of the bigger buildings in BCHL, holds upwards of 4,500. Maybe there's a potential to have 12 or 1,500 there if it gets to a 25% capacity. Other buildings, Merit's a pretty small building and maybe holds 1,000 or 1,200, not very many stands. So they'd be that much more limited if it's based on percentage that you can have there anyway. So
I see. Wow.
We'll keep watching and see what happens in early December.
You mentioned Wenatchee, they might have to take a season off possibly. I was thinking, are there other teams that don't know if they can make it financially this season? Have you heard any rumblings about other teams not wanting to drop the puck in their arenas and, incur the losses that they will have to?
Yeah, in the Junior A League, none that I know of at this point. It's obviously tough on all of them, and these probably have one of the bigger budgets to work with from the amount of people in the front office to how they treat the players and everything else. And that's not to speak negatively, but when you average 3,200 fans a game and you work hard to get to that point, it makes it easier to be a little more relaxed in other areas of your operations, obviously. I know in the Junior B League, in the Kootenay International League, there are 3 teams this year that decided not to play the season. One of them being Spokane, because Spokane is in the Junior B League out here, and they couldn't be crossing the border every game. So they've taken the year off. 100 Mile did, and I think Beaver Valley was the other one. So a couple of teams opted out. I know I'm friends with Randy Bernard, who is the owner of the Soyuz Coyotes. And Randy's owned them for about 10 years now, and a great owner, works hard with them. He had a lot to consider when they had a league meeting a few weeks ago, and teams had to say if they were in or out. You're faced with having no fans at your game, no revenue from ticket sales, revenue from your marketing side of things that is drastically down from usual. So Randy Bedard and other owners around the league and some of the community-owned teams, had to really look at that. But it was tough to say no as well, I think. A few teams did, and Spokane was an obvious one. But you don't want to give up and you lose your players as well. So there was a dispersal draft for those 3 teams that didn't play this year.
Oh, okay.
So they lost their lineup as well.
Oh, wow.
So you'd be pretty much starting from scratch next year. So it'll be interesting to see if those teams can come back next year. But yeah, teams were faced with, maybe it's better to bite it. Hopefully we break even. And if we can break even, and then we can hopefully start next year on even ground and move forward positively from there. So but it wasn't an easy decision for a lot of owners because they know how tough it is. Junior A, it's just ramped up that much more. I mean, your margin, your expenses are that much higher traveling around, and that's why I mentioned teams like Prince George or Powell River, Cranbrook and Trail in the outlying areas of the BCHL didn't play near as many games through the preseason because it was that much more expensive. It's tough to go on an overnight road trip. I mean, here in the Okanagan, Penticton is hour and a half drive pretty much from Vernon, Saminar, maybe another half hour. But you're easily, obviously, coming home after every game. You're not spending a night in a hotel, maybe one meal, and that's it. how do you start to incur expenses of overnight stays and putting 25 players and coaches into hotel rooms and feeding them a couple of extra meals when you've got very little income coming in. So it's going to be tough on them. Get through the year as best you can with minimal expense, and hope things are better for next year.
The Pacific Junior Hockey League locally here was going, and they had some games in. Some teams had about 8 games. I think 7 or 8 games was the top, and other teams had played about 4 or 5. And then Bonnie Henry brought some new restrictions in, and they've shut down for at least a couple of weeks. I think they're going to revisit that soon. All hockey in the Lower Mainland and surrounding area has been suspended for a couple of weeks because of COVID. But the KJHL you mentioned, they started this past Friday, and they're trying to get a season. How large of a season are they gonna have?
I can't remember. I was thinking there was a 32 game season when they were first looking at it, or 30 or 32, somewhere in there. And I'm just not sure at this point what they've got scheduled for how many games they'll play. Usually I'm thinking it's a 44 game season. So it'll certainly be less than that. But they're going to get their season underway a couple weeks earlier than say the Junior A League anyway. So, but yeah, teams played on the weekend. There were no fans at the games. But they'll try to push forward and do what they can. I know I do some of the PA announcing for the Coyotes and the Soyuz, and Randy, the owner, has a wireless mic, and he's on the ice doing contests and promotions throughout the period. And I'm announcing goals and assists and playing music. Well, there's no need for 2 people to do that because there's no fans in the stands for those promotions to take effect. There's usually a game sponsor, and it's tough to tie a game sponsor in when there's nobody there. I think it's easier for the Junior A teams. They've got more of a following. They can build up their broadcasts that much more, radio or TV broadcasts or internet broadcasts. But at the Junior B level, it's that much tougher. I mean, most teams are going to get the 200 to 300 of the game if they've got some good fan support that way, and that's about it. And their broadcasts aren't as polished. And now that they've hooked up with Hockey TV, I think they'll be able to promote it given the pandemic and the fact fans can't go to the games. But they'll just try to build it up however they can, and if things improve and they can have some fans, fine. If not, the teams that are playing, I think 17 of the 20 are prepared to go through the season and just try to get through it, and hope that things get back to normal by next year.
Yeah. I need to mention our partners and sponsors. There's just a couple more things I want to go with you and then let you on your way. I know you're busy. The one thing is I signed up for Hockey TV probably a month ago or 6 weeks ago. If you go onto a lot of the pages for the teams, they'll give you some type of coupon code that you can take some money off. I think it's about $70. Would you be able to try to quickly find the cost for that while I mention the partners and sponsors? And then I do want to mention some baseball right at the end of this, okay? Just take a look. I'm going to mention our partners and sponsors. If you can find it, great. We really always want to mention partners and sponsors. We wouldn't be able to do this show without them. Anchor has been a really great partner and sponsor for Complete Sports. They've been amazing at posting on online platforms in multiple fashions. They have been the easiest place to make a podcast. So go to Anchor FM and log in, find all the details there. Verbero, a really fantastic partner with us, hockey equipment and apparel company that has unprecedented gear. Industry leader in technology, performance, and value. And their V350 stick is something that you can't miss. It is absolutely fantastic to hold in your hands. Very explosive and powerful, and the lightest stick at 350 grams on the market. Pampas Impossibilities designs and sells dried florals, floral arrangements, and installations. They're designers of handmade, curated, bohemian things with West Coast vibes at reasonable prices. And finally, Forever Living. This is the aloe vera company. They grow and manufacture aloe vera-based products for health and beauty. And you can find tons of details on CompleteSportsMedia.com. Go on there, click on some of the icons, learn more. they'll take you to their sites, and you can get coupon discounts for some of the products there. So thank you to our partners and sponsors as always. Able to find that information about the Hockey TV?
I'm just looking through here. I know that I see on one part Hockey TV for as little as subscription packages starting at $9.99 a month. I did see something here at $24.99 a month, and that gives you upwards of 20,000 games a year. So it gives you hockey games all over Canada and the U.S. as well, the USHL. I'm not sure, I believe it involves collegiate hockey as well down south end in Canada. So so I am seeing here that $24.99, but there are some other subscriptions. I think you can break it down per league as well. And with that in mind, you can get maybe a better price if you just want to focus on the one league. And I know going to the KIJHL site real quick, it did say something about $80 off. So that might be where the $9.99 comes in.
Nice.
If you're subscribing for the year. So it is really minimal when you think of what you're getting access to. I mean, it's a station or a website that's dedicated to hockey and to junior hockey. And you know, if you've got a friend playing in the AJHL in Drumheller or something, you can watch their games. So I think it's a great thing that's been set up and gives everybody a lot of coverage of junior hockey.
I think I'm personally going to try to invest in that company because with no fans in the stands, that's your only access you're going to be able to get to seeing these games across the nation, across North America. You know, if you dabble a little bit in the stock market, if you invest in companies, I suggest trying to put some money there. That is going to blow up in exposure, and there's going to be a lot of people subscribing to hockey.tv. I wanted to see some of the Penticton games before we had some chats. I was able to see that amazing Jacob Quillen goal that won them the cup, and that was a big celebration for, as you say, it was a preseason exhibition type of tournament, but it was a lot of excitement, and you guys have really good play-by-play color analysts there, and it was fun tournament to watch. I'm glad I'd be able to tune in and see games like that.
Yeah, Trevor Miller does a great job as the Vees broadcaster here. I'm not sure what my role will be. I was the color commentator last year in the broadcast, but given the limits as to how many people can go in the building and even how many can go into the broadcast booth, I've heard that some, among the cities in the BCHL, some are a little more strict than others, or smaller buildings, which doesn't allow as many people in. I mean, SOEC is a pretty large building, and there's lots of room to flow around and not come in contact with people. So at this point, I'm not sure what our plan is. We're still waiting, I think, from word from the BCHL whether the broadcasters can have their regular 2 people on for a broadcast with a color guy, or if they're going to keep it to 1. So I'm not sure what my role might be this year. I'm hopeful to work in the broadcast. I enjoy it tremendously. And when you do it in Penticton, you, as I say, got on average 3,200 fans in the building normally, and a lot of excitement there. And a team that, as I mentioned earlier, drives to succeed every step of the way. It was just the preseason. When I mentioned that to Fred at the end, post-game interview the other day, to write a story, he says, well, you know what? Hey, we never once mentioned it was preseason. We never looked at it that way. We never talked it was preseason. Every game was important for us to get better. And the Vees went 13-1 through that stretch. So it says something about the type of team they've got, the way he's recruited again, and brought players in from all over North America that he believes can lead this team to a championship. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but Penticton is slated to host the Canadian Junior A Hockey Championship.
Wow.
They got that right many months ago, partway through last season.
Fantastic.
Probably February or March last year when we made the announcement. So I don't think things have changed. The regular season, I believe, will go longer. It's usually done about the middle of February when playoffs begin. My understanding is the regular season at 32 games will stretch longer because it's not starting until December. Usually they're pretty much halfway through the season by early into December. So it's going to go longer. I'm not sure the impact that will have on on the Canadian Junior A Championship, on the Centennial Cup. But yeah, next time we get together, I'll find out a little bit more information there and find out what the latest is, if there's something concrete at that point. But at this point, the Vees are gearing up for a great season and slated to host the Centennial Cup Championship. So.
Yeah, you're lucky you're there, and they're lucky to have you. I'm glad you're part of that organization, and I hope you become part of that broadcast team. It'll be must-listen radio and TV for me. I always love hearing your intakes, your insight and takes on the games. You're a really good play-by-play guy, great caller guy, big asset to the team. I hope you're able to increase their sponsorship so they don't take as much of a financial hit with this COVID not allowing fans in the stands. And you know, thanks for promoting them. It's an amazing organization. You're super lucky to be around that. And yeah, why would they change the venue for that Canadian Cup? You know, it should be there. And I'll have to come and take in some games once it happens. I look forward to that a lot.
Well, and yeah, hopefully things are better. That's usually in May. We're just going to keep our fingers crossed that things are better then. I mean, that's a big opportunity for this organization to fill the arena and to bring the teams from around Canada, the best in their leagues, to bring them here as well. So it's just unfortunate it's happening this year. And again, last year this team was so stocked with talent that they had such a good chance of winning a championship, and it was a disappointing way to end. But again, they just restock and they keep retooling and get those players from all over the place to mold them into a great team and have the drive and desire to win every single game, whether it's exhibition or regular season or playoff. And yeah, we'll hope that things open up, that fans can be here for the Centennial Cup, because it'll be a fun time here in Penticton.
How many sons of former NHLers this year on the roster are supposed to be?
You know, not as many. I'm just going to grab the roster from the other night just to. So we've got two Niedermeyers on the team. We've got Jackson and Josh, although and that's Scotty's kids. But Jackson is hurt, and I'm not sure if he's going to be back for the season. So that's going to be a tough one for him. But Josh, his younger brother, a 6'2", 101 pounds defenseman. He's an 04. He's on the team this year, and he played some games last year as a 16-year-old. And Tristan Amonte's still on the team. He scored a big goal the other night. Other than that, Ryan Mcguire. So Pierre Mcguire.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he's on the team this year. I think that is it. Yes. So not quite as many as last year, but well, still, I mean, four, I guess. So that's impressive. That. Two from the same family, but it's Fred Harvinson. He's just got such great contacts and is so well respected. I know, you know, again, when I asked him a little bit about it being just a preseason game the other night, he says, you know what, my phone blew up that day with former players, with alumni, the Penticton Vees and Penticton junior hockey teams, calling him and texting him to go get a win, kind of thing. Nice. There's great rivalries with West Kelowna and Vernon, especially for the Vees, and Salmon Arm to a degree as well, but especially Vernon. So to beat them in the final was fun. But yeah, there's importance placed on it, and Fred keeps in very close touch with a lot of former players following their NHL careers. And yeah, you heard from a lot the other day to wish him the best of luck in what was just a preseason game playoff.
Wow. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, good for him. Yeah, it's nice. Seems like such a great guy, and you know, everybody says fantastic things about him and about that organization, and you know, you stay there, you're gonna see a lot of amazing hockey success for sure. Yeah, you're lucky. Yeah, you're a huge baseball guy, I know, and the biggest news in baseball this past week was the Florida Marlins naming Kim Ng as their general manager. My favorite baseball player over the past 25 years is Derek Jeter, and when he went to Florida, a lot of people wondered why would he go to that organization, but I think he's done a really fantastic job with them, a small market team. being able to get them in the playoffs this year, even though they went through a COVID thing at the beginning of the year. But to name Kim Eng as the first a woman to ever hold the title, first Asian American, just so many really amazing moves there. Really exciting news, and it just blew up around the world. Great to see that momentous occasion finally happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of smart people in the sport, and it matters not. It's kind of geared towards obviously dominated by males from a playing standpoint, but you know, Jessica Mendoza was on the ESPN broadcast. She was part of the Mets front office last year. Yeah. But a great fastball player in her own right. She played the game as far as she could at her level, and as a female, and was very good at it. There's a lot of knowledge there. There's a lot of baseball knowledge in the minds of a lot of people. It makes no difference if you're male or female. You can think the same that way from a baseball standpoint or an organizational standpoint. So yeah, it's good to see that things are advancing that way. I remember when I think it was San Francisco had the first female PA announcer, and that was like a major thing. Like, so we're moving forward, and my Mets now have a billionaire owner, so hopefully the first string's open a little bit. They don't have to go quite as far as the Yankees go, but they need to sign some players, and I think there's you know, speaking from the Mets standpoint, they've gone through a lot of years with the Wilpons where fans didn't have faith that they were acting in the best interest of the baseball team. They wanted a switch, and with Cohen buying the team, we're something like $14 billion, and paid I think $4 or $5 billion for them, the most anybody's ever paid for a professional sports franchise. Not that the Mets on paper are worth that amount of money, but obviously they're playing in one of the biggest cities in the world and have a big market that way. So I'm excited about it because I think he'll add some positive things to it and create an air of success from just what he's done personally, and he's a lifelong Mets fan as well. And I think that's when somebody buys into a team and they're a lifelong fan of that team, I think it says a lot as well.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic news for you.
How many days till training camp starts? Can't be that much longer. So
no
early
kidding.
February.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Okay, well, man, thanks so much. We were able to cover so much in detail. It was great to talk about the Masters, talk about BC hockey, and a little bit of baseball. Always a blast, buddy. Thanks so much for your time today. I know you're always super busy, so I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Well, this will be the highlight because I've got to watch Council through Zoom in a couple hours here in Penticton and cover a few things from that. So this is the highlight of my day, buddy. And thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I love chatting with you. You've done such a great job in building up this program, and wish you the best of success down the road. You're getting some great guests in, and people are so knowledgeable in what they do, and you can go in depth with them. And I think that's the key these days. Too many times we're hit with those 15-second clips, and that's all people want, and they move on to the next thing. And the fact that you can spend an hour with somebody and really pick their brain on things, I think it's a great thing for sports. So keep it up, man.
Buddy. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it so much. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll keep in close contact. Please give us updates on how things are going. I know there's a 2-week break that the Vees have now, but keep us posted on so many things. Send us comments and give us details. I'll put it up on the website and so people can follow along. Thank you.
Okay. Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah, take care of yourself. Bye for now. Yeah, fantastic hour, as Cory mentioned. It was really terrific that you could tune in. As usual, we really appreciate all of our fans and listeners and viewers. And please keep tuning in. We're going to have a really great week ahead. We've got a big guest tomorrow. Greg Kettner is going to be joining us. Please tune in tomorrow night, and you'll be able to catch a really fantastic guest again. Take care of yourself. Love you lots. Bye for now.